Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, dear students, so today we'll be starting another basic series to the point regarding the ionic equilibrium. जैसा कि आप जानते हैं, in the previous classes also, in the previous series also, so we are going to the point. We are not going into the exhaustive literature, exhaustive theory. So, ये जो series है इसमें भी you will get a concise note, so you are there to download it so you can use it for the exam purpose. इसके अलावा जहाँ भी कुछ concepts आएंगे, so we'll try to cover up that. So today we'll have the first class, it's the basic class, and then we'll try to cover up electrolytes, basics about the electrolytes and the degree of ionization. So let's move. Okay, so let's first try to understand the ionic equilibrium. तो ionic equilibrium. Now equilibrium हमने पढ़ा है previous classes में. You might have gone it through it at maybe 11th class or around that. So equilibrium basically it's a chemical reaction. In any chemical reaction, it is the state in which both the reactants and product concentrations they do not change with the time. Means हमारे पास कोई chemical reaction है, A plus B gives product. And if this is a reversible reaction, the product will get converted back to the A and B. Now, ये जो equilibrium processes are forward and backward, if they are same, yeah, after some time you will see that there is no observable change in the properties of system. Means, for example, जब आपने reactants को react किया A and B को, let's say their color was, let's say it was yellow. So when, let me write it down. Let's say we have a chemical reaction which is reversible. Reactants A and B, they react to form product B. A and B का, let's say at initial state जब reaction नहीं हुई थी, the color of solution was yellow, for example. When they react together, जैसे ही उन्हें reaction की, जो product बन गया उसका color है, for example, it is red. Then you will see, आप उसको observe करोगे solution को, that it becomes red, and धीरे धीरे you will see that the solution turns red. The reddish color indicates that it's a physical proper change which would see that indicates that your product is forming. Now अगर ये reaction reversible है, then you will observe that ये जो product है, this gets converted back to the reactants, or this gets decomposed back to the reactants, and you will see this by the color change. But after some time you will see that your color change it doesn't changes. It gets a constant behavior. It means that the rate at which the reactants are reacting to form the products, that is equal to the rate at which the product is getting decomposed into the reactant. या हम ये कह सकते हैं the rate of forward reaction is called rate of backward reaction. Now that is your equilibrium. What is ionic equilibrium? यही equilibrium, if you are interested in the chemical compounds which undergo dissociation, means अगर आपके पास जो chemical compound है, once you dissolve that in some solvent, if it gives ions, now this compound is in equilibrium with the ions. Now and this equilibrium, it's called ionic equilibrium. For example, you dissolve salts, let's say sodium chloride, let's say potassium chloride, and then likely you have acids like say HCl, sulfuric acid, you have bases like sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide. Once you dissolve them in the water, so in the solution you will see that your ions, so your equilibrium between the salt and the ions, or acid and the ions, likely base and the ions, so this is called the ionic equilibrium. That's simple. Now let's move further. So types of electrolytes. So what electrolyte is basically, let's first see that. It's a chemical compound which breaks into the ions. आपके पास एक chemical compound है, you take this compound and you dissolve this in some solvent, that means you prepare a solution. जैसे आपने solution prepare किया, you will see that ions are forming in the solution. So the ions, obviously they will come from the compound you dissolved. So this compound now we say it's an electrolyte. So it's a chemical compound that breaks into the ions once it's dissolved in the solution. Number one. Now जब ions बन जाते हैं तो obviously now this solution has a tendency that it can conduct the electricity. So electrolytes conduct the electricity. The types of electrolytes, to the point, that's one, strong electrolytes, weak electrolytes, and moderate electrolytes. Number one, strong electrolytes. Let's say what they are. They almost completely ionize or dissociate into the solution. यानी strong electrolyte हम किसको कहेंगे? It's basically that chemical compound. Once you dissolve that, it completely ionizes or almost completely. Means in rough sense, अगर आपके पास 100 molecules है, you get them dissolved in some solvent, let's say water. 100 में से 90 get dissociated, or 95 or 99 or 100 molecule, they will get dissociated in the ions. Now such an electrolyte is called as the strong electrolyte. अच्छा, same is the case. ये जो strong electrolyte है, it also gives you ions in the molten state. यानी solid को जो आप थोड़ा सा heat कर लेते हो, you get a state, intermediate state between solid. When you slightly heat that solid, now before getting converted the liquid, that state is a molten state. The molten state, maybe it has the ions present. Now अगर आपके पास strong electrolyte है, so what they do, they conduct electricity to a larger extent. इनका conductivity behavior बहुत high होता है. Examples: sodium chloride, HCl, hydrochloric acid, sodium hydroxide. You can add sulfuric acid, you can add nitric acid, you can add, let's say, potassium hydroxide, and so on. This is one electrolyte. Now second electrolyte, weak electrolyte. As the word suggests, they ionize or dissociate to a small extent in the solution. यानी आप ऐसे chemical compounds लाइए, then you dissolve them in the solvent. Let's say you dissolve them in the water, अगर ये water soluble है, then they will ionize but to a smaller extent. Means, for example, you dissolve 100 ions, you will get 30 ions will get dissolved, or 20 will get dissolved, or 10 will get dissolved, or you will say only 5 ions will get dissolved. So that means the extent of dissolution, extent of dissociation, that is very very less. जब dissociation का extent less है, that means आपके solution में जो ions, number of ions are less, so it means hence they conduct the electricity to a smaller extent. For example, ammonium hydroxide. It's a weak base. The moment you dissolve this in the water, only few molecules will get dissociated into ammonium ion and hydroxide ion, and likely you have the acetic acid. Now third we have the moderate electrolytes. As the word suggests, moderate, that means those substances, those chemical substances which exhibit an intermediate behavior between a strong acid and weak electrolyte. यानी जो एक एंड पे आपका strong electrolyte है which highly gets dissociated into the solution, और दूसरे एंड पे आपके पास weak electrolyte है in between, जो behavior ऐसे substances का behavior in between होगा, so we call them as moderate electrolytes. ठीक? So when I say moderate electrolytes, that means conductivity also will be the moderate. For example, now this is very important. It's important to remember this. You have aluminum hydroxide. It's a weak electrolyte. You can write boron hydroxide also. Now this is very important, acetic acid. But in acetic acid, we have replaced these 3 hydrogen atoms of this carbon, of this methyl group, by 3 Cl groups. Means, let's say this is our carbon. These were the 3 hydrogen atoms. This is your acetic acid molecule. So once we replace these by 3 chloride groups, this is one Cl, this is another Cl, this is another Cl. Now they are the strong, they are electron withdrawing groups, halogens. So obviously because of that strong electron withdrawing pull, what they do, this hydrogen gets easily released. Because जो ion बनेगा उसके बाद acetate ion, उसमें negative charge will get dispersed, so the conjugate base gets stabilized. Conjugate base gets stabilized, that means your acid becomes stronger. But it's not that stronger as we have the strong electrolytes, but then it comes to the moderate category. So it moves from weak electrolyte acetic acid to the moderate electrolyte. So trichloroacetic acid is your moderate electrolyte. So this was the basics about the types of electrolytes. Then we have one more term for the day, that is the degree of ionization or degree of dissociation. What it means? So it can be defined as the fraction of the total amount of a chemical compound or electrolyte that exists in the ionized form. Means it is denoted by alpha. Alpha means the ratio of number of ionized molecules to the total number of molecules dissolved in the solution. Example, आपके पास एक electrolyte है. You take this, dissolve this, let's say you dissolve this in water, you dissolve this in the solution. अगर आपने 100 molecules में डाले थे, हमें देखना है out of those 100 molecules, how many molecules have got ionized? So the number of molecules ionized divided by the total number of molecules. Let's say if the 90 molecules got ionized, you are having hydrochloric acid, you dissolve this in the water, 90 molecules ionized, divided with the total number of molecules you added in the solution, so you have 90 by 10, so that becomes your 0.9. So your 0.9, 0.9 is your degree of dissociation alpha. Now this is very important. Now this degree of dissociation it's an important parameter. What it tells us? It tells us whether electrolyte is strong or weak or moderate. For example, for strong electrolytes, the value of alpha is close to 1. Let's say it's 0.8, 0.9, 0.95, 1. So as much as it gets closer to the 1, it indicates the electrolyte is stronger. That means more and more molecules are getting dissolved and getting ionized. While as for a weak electrolyte, alpha is less than 1. In fact, alpha is very less. For example, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, sometimes 0.5, sometimes 0.005. So कहने का ये मतलब है the value of alpha is very less. If the value of alpha is closer to 1, it indicates strong electrolyte. If it is less than 1, very less values, it's a weak electrolyte. And if the value of alpha is somewhere in between, so it gives us fair idea that it's your moderate electrolyte. So this was the basics about today's class, to the point class. I hope you have enjoyed this. तो इस पूरे टॉपिक का नोट जो है, you will be receiving that note. You go please to the description. You have a link there. You download this file and you can use it for the exam purpose. And also you can try to build up the concepts on that. इसके अलावा भी if you have questions, so please write down the message. क्योंकि students बाद में call करते रहते, write down the message. So you can put the message on through the WhatsApp. For example, on this number you can write down 8491857406. You can write down the message there. So inshallah we'll try to get back. You'll see wherever there are the concepts, so we'll try to solve them. So this is all for this today's class about the ionic equilibrium. And the next class is very important. That is the factors, important factors which affect the degree of ionization or which affect the alpha value. So that we'll see in the next class. Till then, so this is what we have for the day.